In a breathtaking garden, with fruit and nut-bearing trees all over, a man wearing a basket over his shoulders is bending down to catch all the fruits. The little girl calls over this man by calling him Arga. The girl looked extremely excited as her bright eyes are filled with joy as she replies, "I found lots of nuts." The little girl and the man both hold hands and walk back as the man gives her a heads up as she says, "That's amazing," so the girl excitedly asks him to cheer her up. As they both walk back to the village discussing how wonderful their day was, as they walk by a lady with her little boy are buying fruits when the man tells them he is back. The woman greets her as she says, "Welcome back." Suddenly something eye-opening shows up, a huge, terrifying creature, alongside the man who was wearing armor. It was a huge other petrifying beast with teeth like a piranha, so the man alerts everyone and asks them to keep their eyes open at all times as he sees the Demon King. Arga is fighting the beast with a sword in his hand when the woman yells, "Arga, lend me some support." A tremendous fight begins with the two of them. When Arga jumps in the sky with his sword, the monster sees the attack and he is like, "Death is a matter of choice, or a palace for the powers that be," but the monster claps back with a deadly attack, throws the man in the air. Sito Sensa is on his knees as he says, "I was ordered," and suddenly his hand had some lightning power as he yells, "Sarah Bagan Handcare Sento Show." The man with the long hair with a headband around his forehead jumps as he yells, "Arga." It's dangerous. His thoughts are clustered as he tells himself, "I can't hold it," and he orders Arga to kill him. The striking continues as they continue to fight. Arga sized him. He picks up the sword and gets up for an attack again. He puts the sword right through the monster demon's chest as he goes, "Ah." The monster goes, "Gaagh." They both have an intense eye contact. Therefore now the monster is on his toes. However, the attack is successful when the monster falls off the ground and turns out he was finished. So Arga praises him as he says, "Well done," and that he can take care of the rest. Furthermore, he urges, "Demon King, listen carefully. I am the one who wields the hero badge. Now is the time to end your era of evil." To celebrate the victory more vicariously, he starts stabbing the sword again as he says, "So die, fool," and further demands the man with the armor to pick the corpse up, so he gets confused and asks, "Me?" To which Arga replies, "Yes, Yoli." Arga uses the lightning power in his and asks, "Freedom or?" Then he says, "I have the right to do it." And he further elaborates that the Median Karano spell grants permission through the chest of God, a crest that was given to all by God, the very one who created thee and bore witness to it. Born according to the talent of that person, and the way they receive the emblem shows their life. God created an unjust world without equality. A bearded old man wearing a cape tells all the people in front of him that only a few were blessed. Everything was in God's hands. And suddenly Gyllen says yes. Finally, I am a member of the nobility. As the Arga and Gyllen are enjoying their victory, they congratulate each other as Arga drinks wine. The Arga says, "Do you think I am satisfied with just this reward? Although I think the Viscount's position and the exclusive Argas of the territory were too much." Furthermore, Arga replies arrogantly that "Don't say such foolishness. My ambition is still only halfway complete. I'm the owner of a ship that will be the king of all continents. Now that the Demon King is dead, there is nothing to fear. Death of the Demon King, ha." Gyllen addresses, "Once a soldier from this country, Rosa, killed the Demon King and became a hero. The same emblem that the soldier had when the Demon King reappeared, that is, I'm the one who has the hero's emblem. No other country can interfere in a hero's existence. I don't feel comfortable letting nobility be royalty. They are all rubbish." Everyone bows down in front of him as he further says, "And tonight I'll be having dinner with the king, and the worst thing is that he does not leave me alone with the princess." The Arga shows up and tries to confront Gyllen as he feels that he is being taken advantage of, so he says, "I was the one who killed the Demon King." To which Gyllen replies, "What? What are you talking about?" The Arga replies, "I was the one who fought from the beginning to end in that battle. Horn and Anya did everything they could to protect me." To which Arga replies, "Gyllen didn't do anything." "Eh? Why are you talking to me like that?" "Sorry." So Arga replies, "Oh Arga, you're my alter ego." Then in the village, a bearded old man referring to Arga says, "It's time you know what your emblems are." Two boys are having a conversation about crests when one says, "What is the opposite of the crest?" The other one replies, "All that is wrong." When Arga enters and the old man is surprised to see him, as Arga says, "My emblem, it's the hero's." Furthermore, the man asks him that anyway will you stay in this village without talking to anyone? So he replies, If you want, you can come with me, and we'll be fine if I tell the king about you. I will tell him we are a duo of adventurers." So he continues to tell Arga that he thought about it a lot and accepted it. And he further says, "Most of you are supposed to be the part of the corpse that I created in the name of the hero." Arga says, "I am not a substitute." To which Gyllen replies, "Are you cursed by the demon king? Is that why you stopped listening to me?" And he further says, "I mean, after all, what's the point? Will you steal my credit for subjugating the demon king or what?" "You know what? No, of course not. Get it, Arga? You're just my shadow in the end. You're a fake," says Arga. Then Gyllen says, "I own the hero's emblem, not you. If I say I took the demon king's head, everyone will believe my words, unconditionally. Horn and Anya will believe me if I tell them." He also says, "You have no friends. Remember Gyllen?" So Arga asks, "What is your emblem?" So Gyllen asks Arga to come with him. "We will be two brave men." Arga was fortified by his position as he said, "Did you plan to do this from the beginning?" Gyllen suddenly starts yelling, "Help! Arga is trying to attack me," trapping Arga in yet another misery, and all the guards march in to catch Arga, but Arga manages to fight and escape them. Gyllen is at the king's palace now. As he walks with the princess, music is playing, everyone is having a good time, but Gyllen is filled with rage as he thinks to himself, "Shit, after all this time I thought things would work out the way I wanted. I'll kill you, Arga." Horn and Anya go to Gyllen with concerned looks when Anya asks, "What about Arga?" And Horn further adds, "I would like to ask you some questions about Arga." These questions make Gyllen more angry as he was already filled with rage as he says, "Everything is always about him." And now he tells that he has made up his mind and Agra is going to die. On the other hand, Agra is on the run and he sees a boat and he thinks to himself, "If I get on that boat and I go to Momoza continent, will I manage to expose Gyllen's crimes?" So he gets to the boat and asks the sailor to get up as he wanted to take the boat, to which the sailor replies, It's very early." But then something happens which leaves the sailor and Arga both dismayed as they see Gyllen on his horse with the rest of his army. Gyllen says, "I was looking for you." And he further says, "I came here because I wanted to apologize directly to you." This statement comes as a shock to Arga as he says, "Do you intend to apologize and then kill me?" As Arga is aware of the true motives of Gyllen, but Gyllen continues to deny it as he says, "Do you think I would do that to my friends? Please, I am not so cruel." But Arga is adamant on his stance as he says, "You're just doing this all for yourself. Stop lying. You do not care about others." Arga fights with Gyllen's guards, puts them to rest, and him and Gyllen continue to argue when Gyllen says Arga is wrong, to which Arga replies, "You and me, we have always been different. Arga told him that you took all my credit," to which Gyllen acts naive and denies everything. So Arga further explains, "Were you even in that battle? I killed the demon king, so those were your intentions from the beginning." This statement leaves Gyllen aggravated, so he says, "It seems I have no choice. I will bring your sin to an end directly this way." He takes his sword out and says, "I will kill you. You are going to die by my hands." A fight breaks out between the two of them when the guards arrest Gyllen, as one of them says, "I am not your shadow, not your puppet." On the other hand, Arga wishes everyone goodbye and Gyllen calls him insults when he says, "You're a nobody. You can't do anything without me. You will regret this, Arga." The only response Arga gives is, "Goodbye, Gyllen." Arga realizes that it is time to change the future and live for himself. Arga lands in a small town in the Momoza continent, and he wants to stay true to the vows he made to himself. At first he only kept silent behind Gyllen, and it was easy for him, but now he wants to maintain a good impression, so he wants to be nice. Then suddenly he runs into this beautiful girl, so he is very focused to make a good impression and be kind. So he goes up to her and says hi. The girl is shook, scared, and anxious, and then suddenly she starts laughing as she thought that was funny, which comes as a surprise to Arga. So she asks him if he is a traveler, and he tells her that he is. So she tells him that it's great. With excitement, she has a basket of corns in her hands, and she tells Arga, "Welcome to the village of Korn." Arga gives him an introduction of himself, and they get into talking. So Arga tells her that he crossed the border 2 days ago, and it is his first time. So she asks him questions about the armor he was wearing, and she tells him that it is identical to the ones used by heroes in Eldale. To which Arga replies, Arga must also aspire to be a hero. And then Rino-chan gives him a compliment as she blushes. "Well, it looks good on you." Suddenly a petal gets stuck in her hair, so Arga urges, "Wait a moment," and she pulls it out and they suddenly click. So Rino-chan apologizes and says, "I was in the mountains. During the last few months there has been an illegal dumping of tree shells on the mountain, And then she gets a feeling that Arga might not be interested in hearing all of this, so she says, "It's no fun talking about this, sorry." And then she says, "I have a request. Well, I will show you the village of Korn." Korn is located in the northernmost part of the Mimosa continent. Originally, it had more than 1,000 people, but each year the population declined, and now it has less than half of a small town. Moreover, she takes him on a tour of the residential area. There is an adventurers guild in the middle of the residential area. So Arga asks her about the uniform everyone is wearing, so she replies, "Yes, that is the uniform of the guild employees." Then they move forward to a street, so Rino-chan tells him, "In this street wine is produced. There is also a cafeteria, a grocery store, and a tool store," which was the only store which closed 6 months ago, to which Agra questions closed. So how do adventurers equip themselves then? So Rino-chan replies, "Simple, the adventurers guild asked for the state to provide the weapons." But suddenly there's a sigh of sadness on Rino-chan's face as she tells Agra that usually quality equipment does not arrive here, sorry. Then Agra sees a tall building in front of him, which he finds quite fascinating as he asks, "It is inevitable considering the place where we are." So she replies this is the only inn in Korn, and she further elaborates that even though it's only a house, we will give you the best hospitality so you can rest easy. So Agra asks her if it is good enough, to which she says, "Birds sing all day long." But she also tells him that the adventurers are using community lodging and you could stay there, no need to stay in an inn. He explained her his current living situation as he is sharing a room with Horn and Inya. Simple accommodation if you are a member of the guild, you can stay here for free. Then suddenly they run into a sweet old woman holding bread, Rino-chan, so she asks Rino-chan, "Is your armored friend an adventurer?" So Arga introduces himself very politely, so she replies, "I am glad to you." Rest of the town members are also fascinated by Agra as they ask, "Oh, is he a new adventurer?" The other man compliments the armor as he says, "He's wearing a fantastic armor." Rest of the town members are a bit suspicious about him, but Rino-chan tells them that he is a good person and everyone has a firm belief on Rino-chan's verdict. So Agra realizes that for some reason he has built up a good impression in front of the inhabitants here. And thus they finally arrive at the Guild of Adventurers, the place where Rino-chan works. She continues to Agra about her colleagues that they are very kind when suddenly a woman yells, "Idiot, where have you been?" So Rino-chan hides behind Agra, and then the woman asks her who the armored man is. As they move forward, Agra sees an old man with long hair who is studded with jewels, who asks about Arga, to which Rino-chan replies, "His name is Arga." The man replies, "Your name does not matter to me. Why are you here? Can you speak?" So Arga replies, "Aren't you being too cruel? Rino took the liberty of showing me the village." The old man replies, "I am surprised that you have the liberty to even ask me that question." The old man says, "Oh, so you can talk, huh? Are you the boss of the place? We will see what you are made of." Everyone in the room is looking at Agra with suspicion, and the man asks him, "Do not hide behind the armor. What is your emblem?" He replies, "It is human." This comes as a shock to the man as he says, "You are too pathetic, boy. You are not worthy for me to be wasting my time with you. Your emblem is fake." He further says, "I guess you might have thought your life up till now was very difficult, but what comes next has no comparison. Go back where you came from." Rino apologizes and bows down. As the old man leaves, the man replies to her, "If you have time to apologize, you better get back to work." She replies, "Thanks, Mr. Bowden." And the other man says, "Yeah, you do not have to worry about anything, you heard him." Then Rino apologizes to Arga as she says, "I am sorry about everything that happened here," to which Arga replies, "It is fine," as Rino looks at him with pity in her eyes. She asks him if he wants to still join the guild despite everything that happens, but he refuses and says he is independent. Rino further says adventurers from other cities refuse to come and those who leave do not return. It is convenient for you to stay in the villa. So Arga says, "I see, I accept." So Rino urges to start over as she says, "Welcome to the Korn Village Adventurers Guild. My name is Rino-chan." Then she looks for quests for Arga, so she asks him if he is good at battles, to which he replies, "Isn't there something like traveling hunter?" So she replies, "No, there is not. Due to the nature of your emblem, many in your condition spend their days bored or do other activities." So he instantly asks her that does she think he is no good in fighting, so she replies, "If you are not good at that, you cannot accept a request for monster hunting." Since anything bad can happen, so he replies, "It is not good for Arga Rino-chan to travel, let alone kill monsters, don't you think?" So he asks for suitable quests in accordance with his emblem, and she says she can get him something, and luckily she does find a job, which is harvesting nuts, as she says. There are more than 10 types of fruits that can only be picked on the mountain. Urayama is an adventurer hunting ground and monsters can only go to the back. So Arga continues to ask for the selling price of the nut as he makes an assumption that one fruit from a mimosa tree is equal to 1 piece of copper, so she replies no. If you are a monster hunter, you can have an Eldale copper coin for killing a slime, although the goblin is 3 copper coins, so Arga accepts the challenge when Reno discloses a fact that tree nuts are favorite of the guild leader and there is a particular demand in the village. The guild leader tells him that it is her favorite food, and later a guy asks him to go early or else Reno will have to again. And then Arga realizes he does not have any. As he leaves for the quest, Reno asks him to be careful, and then he thinks to himself she is very sweet, but when he rushed out he realized that he has not asked out the types of nuts or how to pick them. But then he thought he will manage when suddenly he hears a voice, "Oh look, it is the new guy." They recognized him from the reception when Bowden introduces himself and tells him that he has an emblem of a warrior. So Arga introduces himself and they all compliment his armor and they all wish him well as they want him to get along with everyone, and they wish him luck on their way to monster hunting. They all leave and he gets back to his work. So he gets to work, climbs the tree and realizes it is not easy. And then he finally finds the nuts. They are all over the ground. So he gets back to the lodge, but when Reno sees the nuts, she realizes he found them on the ground as they were infected with worms, which makes her so disappointed. As they are all almost rotten, Arga is also extremely disappointed and tells Reno that he will go again. She asks him to throw the old nuts away, and as he leaves she calls him back and asks if he can till she gets off from work. Arga is still trying to catch his breath. He tells her that he is sleepy. Reno feels bad for him and decides to take him out. Arga asks Reno her emblem, so Reno replies, "I am a simple receptionist, that is my vocation. I have never accepted my emblem." Then suddenly they stop at the inn. Reno tells him that this is where she lives and she would love it if he would consider staying here, and she further tells him that her parents are gone and asks him to come in. She stands at the reception and tells him that rooms are available if he would like to stay, and he replies of course. When Arga walks into the room, he is astonished as the room looks amazing, and he instantly asks her if the room was expensive, so she tells him all rooms are the same, and she shows him the bathroom as well. Arga asked her the price of the room, which was 5 Waldona copper coins, which is the local currency as Korn is under the Waldonan government. Per piece of Waldona copper coin are 5 apples, half the value of the mimosa copper coin. Arga tells her that it is very cheap, which is because very few people stay here, and she further asks him if he needs anything, to which Arga replies, "I was very lucky to meet you today, Reno, thank you." Reno feels irritated and she says, No, I just did the right thing." She wishes him good night and leaves. At night, Arga realizes so much has already happened and he forgot to eat, and now he is starving. In the morning, Reno returns, knocks on the door, and wakes Arga up for breakfast. He wakes up, greets her good morning, and Arga is highly impressed as breakfast was also included in the Waldona copper coins. Reno-chan tells Arga that she will be waiting for him in the dining hall. He thanked Reno-chan as he is an introvert, but he still managed to talk to the villager, and now it was time for him to make some money. So he gets back at catching the nuts, and this time he tries to do it with the sword. He thinks of ways to how to not show his swordsmanship, as if he does his real emblem will be discovered and he will get in a lot of trouble. But he is still confused in his head as he thinks I put enough force and make the sword vibrate. And now he was trying to drop off the nuts and is still uncertain if his method would work. And it did work. And now when the nuts were dropping, he was just hoping that they would be delicious, as it is not even a question with this method. The ground is filled with nuts now. Arga was loving the calm while harvesting, and he loved it so much that he could make this a part of this lifestyle. When Reno-chan sees the basket as she is shook, there were so many nuts. She asked him if he grabbed the branches too. So he replied, "Why do you ask? I hope I did not do something wrong." Turns out he did do something wrong, as he was not supposed to break the branches, as now the crop will take time to regrow. But she still keeps the harvesting nut and warns not to do something like that again. Then Reno-chan explains the 3 types of nuts Arga harvested, and the quality of the nuts was also satisfactory, and the fruit of Sagitta is in great demand. And he gets paid in 7 Waldona coins and 9 small copper coins. He signs a document, and Reno-chan seemed extremely happy as she said no one was there to harvest the nuts, when suddenly a guy drops by saying that he will do it for her, but Arga says leave it to me. The other adventurer Darsh seems very mad at Arga as he asks him to leave, calls him names like an idiot, and makes fun of his emblem. Reno-chan tries to stop the fight that Darsh had started, Darsh further says that he finds Agra very hard to look at and asks him to stay in his lane. Agra replies being polite is something a guy like you should know and leaves. Agra decides that he needs to remain low profile in a way he does not stand out. He gets 6 pieces of copper, and as he was analyzing his living situation he realized it was everything he wanted. Agra moves forward and thinks of everything that happened to him in the past. He needs to develop a habit of talking to more people so this town is not confusing for him. Then suddenly Agra runs into a girl and asks her who she is. Agra gives him a nut which she found very delicious and asks him if he was going to the town alone as she wanted to accompany him. They both introduce themselves to each other. The girl's name is Kijjo, and then suddenly Mr. Budon catches Arga and tells him that it is weird seeing him here. He tells Bodon that he was going back to town and he was going hunting. As Mr. Bodon leaves, Agra realized that he spoke to Mr. Bodon in a very natural way which had something to do with him taking off his helmet. The little girls ask Agra if he had nuts in his head, and she further reveals that she can read or hear thoughts, as she discloses a thought of Agra about Reno-chan which makes him believe that she has a superpower. Agra asks Kijjo to not read others' thoughts, and she reveals that everyone here thinks you are a nut man. He tells Kijjo that everyone thought of me as a weird person until I met Reno. She is different. As Agra gets back with Kijjo, Reno asks about Kijjo the little girl, so she tells that she is not from here, she was lost in the mountain. So Reno starts asking her questions about her and her family, and if she can read people's mind. She had a very unique emblem that allowed her to do so. Suddenly the guild leader walks outside with a lot of rage and asks to remove Kijjo from here right now, so Reno defends her, but Guild Master does not listen to anything, as he knows who she is and specifically asks her to not to read his thoughts. Agra apologizes to Kijjo. They try to get more information about his family and house as she was about to burst in tears. Reno offers Mio a place at her inn as she starts reading Reno's thoughts. Mio discloses another thought where she tells Arga that Reno is healing you. Reno blushes and Arga asks Mio to stop reading thoughts. Furthermore, Darsh walks in again to evaluate the nuts Agra harvested, and then he refers to Mio as his daughter. And he says many other despicable things to ruin everyone's mood. When Reno realizes that Darsh is going way overboard, she goes up to him for a talk and asks him to keep Agra alone, but he openly accepts that he hates him, and yet again Agra threw a tantrum, but in return everyone made fun of him and called him names. A fight broke out between Darwash and Agra. Agra said, "It would be just a waste of time to just cut off his tongue, and I will cut off and carve my name onto your body." This situation makes Reno very uncomfortable as fighting is prohibited in the guild. She urges Arga to not start a fight, but he does not listen and they strike at each other. The fighting gets intense, but Arga is not showing his real moves. But then suddenly Arga pulls him with his collar, puts him in the air, takes his tongue out and tries to cut it, then choking. Suddenly Darwash got scared, so he begged Arga to put him down. Suddenly the real identity of Arga is revealed and Reno-chan is extremely sad and disappointed. Reno silently hopes that Arga doesn't judge the entire town based on the unpleasant encounter with the guild master who was rude to him. Meanwhile, Arga awakens and tries to recall when he fell asleep. Suddenly, a rather bizarre thought pops into his head, a mental image of Reno lying naked in his bed. Arga's arm is then seized by Q, who is sleeping beside him. Arga is left puzzled by this strange dream, but before he can make sense of it, Q wakes up. She yawns, rubs her eyes, and greets Arga with a good morning. Arga responds in kind, but then quickly becomes concerned and requests that Q put some clothes on. Q sits up on the bed, eyeing Arga curiously, and Arga can't help but ask her what's going on. In response, Q questions why Arga was thinking about Reno being naked in the first place. Arga is taken aback and exclaims that it's unacceptable to invade someone else's thoughts like that. After Arga prepares himself and dons his armor, he contemplates the situation with Q. He decides that, for now, he should find some new clothes for her. As he leaves Q's bedroom, he is greeted by Reno, who expresses relief upon seeing him. She had been wondering why Arga wasn't in his room. Arga reassures Reno that he hadn't gone anywhere and that there was no need to worry about him disappearing. Reno then asks Arga if this means he won't be leaving or going away. Arga firmly states that he has no plans to leave. Reno, visibly relieved and happy, suggests that Arga takes some rest since they still have to complete the nut harvest. Arga chuckles and corrects her, saying that he's the only one doing the nut harvesting. He speculates that perhaps the reason he was forgiven earlier was because he used to collect and gift these nuts to the Adventurers Guild master, who seemed to have a fondness for them. Reno corrects Arga, telling him that it's not that the Adventurers Guild master didn't like the nuts before, but rather she only started enjoying them recently and has been eating more and more. She also mentions that these nuts weren't considered valuable in the past. Arga finds the story about the Adventurers Guild master's newfound fondness for nuts peculiar and contemplates investigating it further. Reno dismisses the importance of why the Adventurers Guild master is consuming nuts, stating that it doesn't really matter. She then places a few coins on the table and reveals that these are Arga's earnings from selling the nuts he collected the other day. Arga examines the coins, spotting 3 Waldona coins, and realizes that he can now pay for his accommodation. 3 days later, Arga can be seen diligently collecting nut fruits from the tree. He explains that he plans to dedicate an hour each day to collect nuts, since he's uncertain how long these nuts will continue to grow. Arga acknowledges that dedicating just 1 hour to collect nuts and receiving 4 Waldona silver coins for it is quite good, especially considering he doesn't have to risk his life fighting monsters to earn money. When Arga returns to the Adventurers Guild, Ku greets him. Arga inquires if Kijjo found out anything regarding the investigation he asked her to conduct. Kijjo informs Arga that the Adventurers Guild master Baba will be leaving her room today. Arga asks if Baba is already out at the moment, and Kijjo points out a man standing outside of Baba's bedroom, explaining that he's the one responsible for disposing of the nuts behind the mountain. Arga realizes that the nuts being discarded are actually monster magic cores. Kijjo also mentions another man who left a while ago carrying a full bag. Arga questions whether the bag was filled with nut shells, recalling that Reno had been picking up the discarded nut shells from the ground. Arga notices that Reno seems to be searching for something and asks her what's wrong. Reno explains that she had a bag of nuts but can't find it now. Arga inquires if anything else is missing. Reno mentions that it's just the bag of nuts Arga gave her that's gone. Arga persists in asking if anything else is missing. Reno elaborates on how the number of magic cores they had in the room is decreasing day by day, and it seems unlikely that they were stolen since there is always someone on guard duty among the staff. Arga relays to Reno that according to Kijjo, the person on guard duty is also responsible for stealing the nuts and magic cores, and the one who collects the goods is a small guild employee. Reno questions whether Kijjo read the thoughts of these employees. Kijjo confirms to Reno that she did read the thoughts of these employees and that everything related to the thefts is behind the door guarded by the suspicious employee. Reno is shocked to learn that there is evidence of robbery behind the guild master's bedroom door. Arga, realizing that something is amiss, decides to approach the guard who is standing by Baba's bedroom. The guard warns Arga that only authorized personnel are allowed in this area. Arga taunts the guard, insinuating that he might be a thief. The guard is taken aback and asks Arga to clarify what he means when Arga suddenly punches him in the stomach. Arga then demands that the guard confirm whether he heard Arga correctly or if he wants Arga to cut off his ear. Arga instructs Reno to open the bedroom door to Baba's room, and she does so with some hesitation. As they enter the room, they find someone lying in Baba's bed. Arga is puzzled by the situation, but Reno lets out a sigh of relief, realizing that the Adventurers Guild master is indeed sleeping in her bedroom. Arga then asks Reno about the emblem of the Adventurers Guild master. Reno informs him that it's the Earth Element emblem. Arga explains that an Earth Element emblem signifies specialization in Earth attributes, and that the person currently in Baba's bed is nothing more than a clay doll, an imitation. Reno is shocked by this revelation and asks Arga what they should do next. Arga reassures her, saying they've already caught the thieves. He reports to the other members of the Adventurers Guild that they have apprehended both the large guard and a young man involved in the Adventurers Guild master's thief group. Arga quickly informs the other members of the Adventurers Guild that these individuals were responsible for stealing both the nuts and magic cores. He suspects that the magic cores might be hidden within the clay doll. When Reno inquires about why Baba needed the nuts, Arga admits that he doesn't have a clear answer to that question. Arga decides to investigate the clay doll further and carefully begins to disassemble one of its arms, fully aware of the potential danger if Baba had issued a counterorder. Suddenly, the doll activates, and within seconds, one of the magic cores inside it explodes. Arga instinctively grabs Reno and moves her to safety, urging her to evacuate with the others, including Kijjo. With a determined look, Arga prepares to confront the clay doll, knowing that another explosion might be imminent. Arga quickly recognizes the clay doll as a kind of suicide bomber due to its repeated explosions. He skillfully dodges its attacks, which are becoming increasingly erratic and aggressive. With a swift and precise swing of his sword, Arga beheads the clay doll, rendering it harmless. The room's occupants, including Reno and other staff members, cautiously enter and inquire if the doll has been defeated. Arga confirms its defeat and apologizes for the trouble he has caused. Reno reassures him, emphasizing that no one was hurt, which is the most important thing. The members of the Adventurers Guild express their gratitude to Arga for saving them and are left bewildered by the actions of the guild master. Arga turns to Reno and asks about her plans. She informs him that she intends to report the incident to the Waldona government. Arga inquires if Baba will be dismissed from her position after Reno reports her actions. Suddenly, a voice interjects, vehemently stating that it won't happen. Everyone turns to see that it's Baba, the Adventurers Guild master, who has returned to the guild. She warns Reno that she intends to deal with her before Reno can make any reports and scolds her, implying that the incident with the clay doll won't work in her favor. Arga informs Baba that he destroyed her clay doll, and Baba retorts that an outsider should not interfere in their matters. Arga questions whether this includes Baba herself, noting that he's heard she was banished from Waldona. Baba glances at the other guild members and asks who disclosed this information to Arga. She warns Arga not to get too confident and confesses that she hid the magic cores in her clay doll, hoping to improve her living conditions by selling them, as she had grown tired of being stuck in the rural town for so long. As Baba attempts to attack Arga with her stick, he swiftly breaks it with his sword and knocks her to the ground. Arga then instructs Reno to fetch a rope. After restraining Baba, Reno and the other guild members express their gratitude to Arga. Arga asks Reno to reconsider the evaluation of the nuts, but she explains that with Baba gone, the nut prices will remain good and stable. She assures Arga that she will handle it if that's what he wishes. Arga doesn't respond verbally, leaving Reno to inquire if everything is alright, to which Arga affirms. Arga remains puzzled about why Baba needed nuts when she was stealing the magic cores. He considers the possibility that nuts provided a perfect cover for hiding the cores. Returning to the inn, Arga informs Kijjo about Darsh's return to town and expresses his desire to move to another city soon, as his presence is now well known in Waldona. Kijjo inquires, asking Arga why he wants to leave and if it's like a game of hide and seek for him. When Arga and Kijjo arrive at the inn, Reno greets them and apologizes to Arga for the incident at the Adventurers Guild earlier. She expresses her belief that such problems should have been handled by guild members. Arga reassures Reno, telling her it wasn't her fault. Reno confesses that she always had a nagging feeling that something was amiss. Reno then questions Arga about his emblem, mentioning the possibility of it being human. Arga recalls his encounters with the clay doll, the guild master, and Darsh, where he faced them fearlessly. Confused about how to respond to Reno, Arga explains that he destroyed the magic cores during the fight with the clay doll, and that Darsh was simply weaker than him. Reno clarifies that Darsh has an emblem labeled Bandit, and his kills are equivalent to 1 star. Without a star or a wrestler's emblem, it's nearly impossible to defeat him. Arga continues to make excuses, asserting that Darsh was overconfident, which made it easy for him to defeat Darsh. Reno, however, insists on seeing Arga's emblem. When Arga hesitates to reveal it, Reno starts to suspect that Arga may have lied about his emblem. Kijjo whispers something to Reno, who then reveals that Arga mentioned having a false emblem. Arga questions Reno's intense curiosity, and Reno admits that she really wants to know more. Arga contemplates how the truth will likely come out eventually, perhaps through a traveler crossing the continent. And he doesn't want Reno to hate him. Even if he lies, he knows Reno won't be convinced. Arga grapples with the decision of whether to tell Reno the truth or not. Suddenly, Kijjo's stomach growls loudly, signaling her hunger. She tells Reno that she's hungry, and Reno, though trying to hold her off, can see that Kijjo is genuinely famished. Arga, before Reno leaves, makes a request. He asks if Reno could cook for him and Kijjo from now on. He expresses his desire for Reno to prepare meals for both of them. Reno, blushing slightly, agrees, saying that she can't refuse if Arga wants it. She mentions using the nuts that Arga collected for their meals. Arga, relieved that he didn't reveal his secret, silently thanks Kijjo for keeping Reno occupied. Kijjo, however, is primarily focused on the prospect of getting food soon. Reno begins to prepare the meal, assuring Arga and Kijjo that they can ask if they need anything else. She also expresses her anticipation for a conversation with Arga after the meal. Arga contemplates eating his meal upstairs in his own room to avoid further conversation with Reno. A week has passed since Arga moved to Korn town. Reno greets Arga while she prepares breakfast for him and Kijjo. Arga returns the greeting and inquires about what she's making for breakfast. Reno informs Arga and Kijjo that she's preparing a breakfast entirely made from nuts. Kijjo, with a somewhat bored expression, mentions that she likes nuts. Arga recalls that they've had nuts for breakfast the past couple of days. Reno credits Arga for providing the nuts. Arga thinks back to when he mentioned that they could eat nuts every day and feels like he might have said too much at that time. Kijjo chimes in, saying that she also likes nuts, and Arga jokingly offers to trade his nuts for some cookies. Meanwhile, back at the Adventurers Guild, Reno can be seen managing documents and handling various tasks when Arga learns that Reno has become the new deputy chief. Arga approaches the reception counter and notices a new receptionist. He informs the girl that he would like to have his nuts evaluated. The girl, being new and unfamiliar with the nuts evaluation process, apologizes, stating that she doesn't know the difference between good and bad quality nuts. Arga accepts her apology and decides to look for someone else who can evaluate his nuts. Just as he's about to leave, the girl asks him to wait and offers him a job opportunity. She hands him a paper with a job description for weed elimination. She assures Arga that it's not a dangerous task, and he can give it a try. Arga reads the job description and notices the generous reward it offers. Curious, he asks the girl why other adventurers aren't taking this job if it's so rewarding. The girl explains that most adventurers prefer monster hunting, so jobs like weed elimination are often overlooked. Arga decides to take the offer and signs the contract right away. The girl then proceeds to explain the details, mentioning something about the range of requests and days, which leaves Arga feeling a bit puzzled. In the next scene, Arga is seen working diligently in a field, with an elderly lady cheering him on and praising his hard work. She even asks if he can work on the other side of the field as well. Arga, feeling the strain on his back, reflects on the challenges of this job, particularly when wearing his armor. He's thankful that it's not summer, as the heat would have made the work even more grueling. The ladies approach Arga and inform him that they would like him to help with weed elimination in different parts of the town on various days. In return for his efforts, Arga receives 10 silver Waldona coins, making his hard work feel somewhat rewarding. Reno apologizes to Arga for pushing him into the weed elimination work, feeling sorry that Miro influenced her in that decision. She explains that everyone is happy with the town looking beautiful now. Arga acknowledges the help but also mentions that his back is sore from all the labor. Reno offers to give Arga a massage to relieve his back pain. At first, Arga declines, saying it's not necessary. However, Kijjo, who has been eavesdropping, inquires if Arga and Reno will be spending time alone together. Arga is initially puzzled by Kijjo's question. When Reno returns to the room to give Arga a massage, she finds him lying on his belly but still wearing his helmet. She scolds him to take his helmet off, to which Arga explains that he kept it on because it's the first time Reno will be giving him a massage. Reno, instead of giving Arga a massage, playfully starts hitting him, causing Arga to scream in pain and ask her to stop. Reno half-heartedly apologizes to Arga, pretending her hand slipped, and then lightly slaps him on the buttocks. Arga protests, asking Reno if she hates giving massages this much. Reno replies that she'll treat him properly if he takes off his helmet. Meanwhile, Kijjo starts crying as she observes the interaction between Arga and Reno. In the Kaza Kingdom's capital, chaos reigns as it comes under attack. Inya holds Horn, who is unconscious, while Gyllen is terrified by the unfolding situation. The populace is desperately trying to evacuate. There is talk about how Gyllen, who was supposed to be able to handle the situation, might be their only hope. The cause of the chaos is revealed. The Demon King, previously defeated by Arga, has returned to life. The only part that remained intact was the severed head of the Demon King, and now that head is wreaking havoc. The Demon King's head has already killed all the guards attempting to restrain it. Gyllen was baffled by the situation, wondering how the Demon King has come back to life with only its head intact. He reflects on the past when Arga severed the Demon King's head. If the Demon King had any intention of retaliating, both Arga and Gyllen were prepared to attack it. It seems the Demon King feigned its demise. Gyllen decides to leave the castle, prompting Enya to spot him and inquire about his intentions. Gyllen tells her that he has some news to share. Meanwhile, as Arga walks through the market, he overhears people discussing the resurrection of the Demon King. They wonder if the hero was not present in the capital, and another person mentions that the hero escaped with his friends while the guards perished. Arga then acquires a newspaper and reads about the Demon King's return. Back at the Adventurers Guild, Arga can be seen getting the nuts he collected evaluated. Cow observes Arga and asks if he's feeling sad. Arga admits that he's saddened by Horn's death. Q inquires if Horn was an important person to him, and Arga explains that they never really talked much, but he still considered Horn a friend. Arga discusses the chaos in the capital, with the Demon King's head causing widespread destruction. Exhausted soldiers and residents are in need of assistance, while the royal family seems to have fled. Arga expresses his determination to defeat the Demon King once more and gain recognition from everyone in the kingdom of Kuza. Kyo asks Arga if he's crying and if he'd like to return. Arga responds that he hasn't made up his mind yet and doesn't even know the Demon King's current whereabouts. Meanwhile, back in the capital, fires rage and devastation is widespread. Gyllen makes a run for it through the chaos in the capital, determined to escape the mayhem. Before leaving the castle, he tells Enya that he's going to act as a distraction for the Demon King, allowing her to escape. Gyllen, however, is primarily concerned with his own survival and doesn't seem too worried about anyone else. To him, his own life takes precedence over any treasures or people. Gyllen contemplates that it's time for him to utilize Arga once more. Arga reflects on how his concerns about the Demon King's potential resurrection kept him awake at night, leading to his fatigue. Q, noticing his tiredness, asks if he's sleepy. Reno enters the room and exchanges greetings with Arga and Kyo, discussing her day off. She's relieved that the new Adventurers Guild master hasn't changed the scheduling rules. After breakfast and tea, Arga prepares to go to work. Reno offers to look after Kyo for the day, but Arga suggests asking Kyo for her preference. Q, however, exclaims that she's had enough of nuts, despite Reno's efforts to soothe her. Arga remarks on how Kyo has changed since he first met her. Upon entering the Adventurers Guild, one of the adventurers notices Arga's tired appearance and comments on it. Arga, curious about the commotion in the Adventurers Guild, inquires with Bodon. Bodon explains that a young boy discovered orcs in the back mountain, and dealing with orcs and demons is quite challenging, even for the adventurers in the town. Arga asks if there's no one capable of defeating orcs. Bodon clarifies that there are adventurers who can handle orcs. Arga is aware of the ranking system for monsters, with slimes at the 3rd rank, goblins at the 2nd rank, and orcs at the 1st rank, making them stronger and more challenging to deal with. He questions Bodon about the number of stars on his warrior emblem. Bodon replies that he doesn't have any stars, and when Arga asks about his friends, Bodon humorously states that none of them have stars either, teasing Arga about whether he believes his friends are more skilled than Bodon. Arga understands that the only adventurer in town with a star on their emblem is Darsh, and that's likely the reason why the others are hesitant to take on the orcs. He knows that his human emblem won't help him in this situation. The adventurers, recognizing Arga's strength compared to Darsh, turn their attention to him, hoping he will take on the task. Arga tries to explain that he cannot fight the orcs with his human emblem, but Darsh interrupts, belittling Arga and boasting about his ability to deal with orcs. He brandishes his knife and declares his readiness to take on the task. However, the other adventurers still prefer Arga and urge him to fight. Arga, feeling the pressure, insists that he can't take on the orcs, but Darsh remains determined to prove himself. It appears that a clash between their differing abilities and emblems is imminent. Arga, noticing Miru in a compromising position and her embarrassment, clears his throat to announce his presence. Miru quickly gets up and asks Arga how long he has been standing there. She's flustered, thinking that Arga might have seen her panties. When Arga doesn't respond to her initial question, Miru insists, telling him to stop pretending. Arga finally addresses the issue, asking Miru if she's been skipping work. Miru denies it and changes the subject, shifting into another suggestive position, all while teasing Arga about evaluating his nuts. Arga, embarrassed and concerned about her revealing her panties, tells her to stop her antics. Miru suddenly stands up and asks Arga if he saw her panties, playfully calling him naughty. She inquires if Arga is waiting for Reno and offers to do something special for him if he can keep it a secret. Miru's demeanor becomes flirty and romantic. Arga, feeling uncomfortable with the direction the conversation is taking, attempts to leave the room, telling Miru he'll find someone else to evaluate his nuts. However, Miru insists on doing the evaluation herself, admitting to a previous mistake and assuring Arga that she'll judge the value of his nuts accurately. Miru's suggestive comments and advances start to frustrate Arga. He decides to change the topic and asks her about the orc hunt. Miru responds with dark humor, suggesting that maybe the adventurers are all dead. Arga tells Miru that making fun of this situation isn't appropriate, and Miru proceeds to ask him about his feelings for Reno. This question confuses Arga, and Miru continues to suggest that something romantic might have happened between them. Frustrated by Miru's comments, Arga draws his sword, but the situation takes an unexpected turn as the adventurers return to the guild, beaten up and exhausted. Miru thanks them for their efforts, but they express their difficulty in defeating the orcs. Darsh and Boden, in particular, get into an argument and a fight. Arga, looking for information about the rewards for hunting orcs, asks Miru. She checks and informs him that the reward is 5 Mamutsa silver coins. Arga reflects on his past experiences, battling countless orcs while traveling with Gyllen. Arga listens to the conversation about the orcs and the line forming at the Adventurers Guild. He decides to ask Reno about what's happening. Reno explains that an orc carcass was found at the back of the hill, and because of that, many adventurers want to take on the job of harvesting nuts today. Arga thinks about how his actions last night must have scared the orcs away. As Arga contemplates this, the adventurers who previously faced the orcs approach him and ask for his assistance. They explain that they couldn't defeat the orcs, but Arga, with his skills, might be able to. They offer Arga a share of the rewards if he helps them. Arga, initially hesitant, eventually agrees to assist them in dealing with the orcs. Arga tells Reno that he's just curious and wants to know more about the people in this town. Reno then reveals that Miru has a witch emblem. Arga is intrigued by this and asks Reno what it means. Reno explains that the witch emblem indicates that Miru specializes in magic. Arga is surprised, as he didn't expect a receptionist to have such a powerful emblem. He thanks Reno for the information and decides to learn more about Miru when he has the chance. As the day progresses, Arga and the group of adventurers head to the area where the orcs were spotted. They keep a watchful eye for any signs of the orcs and prepare for a potential confrontation. As the day goes on, Arga continues his work alongside the adventurers in the area where the orcs were spotted. They search diligently for any signs of the orcs, determined to eliminate the threat to the town. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Kijjo, Gyllen feels the weight of his responsibility as the hero. He knows that despite the chaos and destruction, he must stay alive to protect the kingdom. Back at the Adventurers Guild, tensions simmer between Arga and Reno, while Ku tries to lighten the mood with the promise of a nut-filled dinner. It seems that Arga's curiosity about Miru and her witch emblem has stirred up some emotions in Reno. Gyllen's proclamation of being the hero of Kijjo Kingdom captures the attention of the man who asked him. However, what Gyllen doesn't realize is that he has stumbled upon a bandit town. The man with a sly grin exchanges a knowing look with his fellow bandits. The man nods and welcomes Gyllen into the town, all while plotting to take advantage of the hero's presence. Unaware of the danger that lurks, Gyllen continues deeper into the town, hopeful that he can find assistance or information about Arga and the Demon King. In Korn Town, it's raining outside. Q looks out the window and enjoys the rain and nature. Arga enters the room and comments on the heavy rain. Q turns to Arga and wonders how he'll collect nuts to sell on such a rainy day. Arga isn't sure how to respond and says that there's not much money to be made when it's raining. He shows Keo a bucket full of nuts he collected earlier, assuring her that they have enough for today. While Q sits on his lap reading a book, Arga thinks about finding alternative ways to earn money, especially on rainy days. Later, Arga approaches Reno-chan and asks if there are other ways for him to make money besides gathering nuts from trees. Arga clarifies to Reno that he's not interested in weed elimination either. After a brief pause, Reno suggests that he could do some house repairs instead. Arga inquires whose house needs fixing, and Reno reveals that it's her own house, specifically mentioning a room with a damaged floor. Arga agrees to take on the repair job, but mentions that he needs to return to his inn first. Reno assures him that she'll be waiting. Arga returns to Keo, who's still engrossed in her book, and informs her that he'll be leaving for a while. Keo, deep into her reading, doesn't respond. Arga then asks Keo if any of the monsters in her book have caught her attention. She points to the picture of an orc and expresses her curiosity about this particular monster. Kao mentions to Arga that he had slain these orc monsters not too long ago. This statement confuses Arga, who isn't sure how Kao was aware of his encounter with the orcs. Arga queries Ku about when exactly he killed these orcs, and she responds that it happened on the day he ventured into the mountain's back. Puzzled, Arga inquires further, asking if Kao has discussed this with anyone else. Kao asserts that she hasn't shared this information with anyone and assures Arga that she won't. Arga emphasizes that it should remain a secret between them. As they return to their inn, the rain continues to fall. Arga glances at Ku, wondering why she, despite being a child, is wandering alone. He speculates whether it could be related to memory loss or some other reason. Arga contemplates how Kao could have learned about his orc encounter. Seeing Kao shivering in the rain, Arga becomes concerned about her well-being. Observing Ku, Arga contemplates the possibility that there might be no emblem on her. He calls out to Ku, asking her to come over for a moment. However, Kao responds by saying that she won't come to him. Arga makes another request, this time extending his hands and politely saying please. Ku then inquires if Arga will make her something very delicious to eat. After leaving the inn, Ku picks up a random stick lying on the ground and asks if she can use it for practice. Arga reassures her that it's fine to play with the wooden stick and invites her to come over and strike him with all her strength. Ku, declaring that she's going to hit Arga now, lets out a loud roar and starts running toward him. Despite her fierce declaration, Kijjo, being just a child, looks adorable as she charges toward Arga with her little feet and determined expression. As Kao charges towards Arga with her wooden stick, she ends up colliding with him instead of hitting him. Arga asks if she's okay, and Ku looks up at him with a smile, expressing her belief that nothing bad will happen to her as long as Arga is with her. Arga gazes down at Ku, thinking about how she seems unharmed and how lovely she is, even wondering if she might not be entirely human. Arga then tells Kao that they should end their game for today and prepare to leave. Ku, in response, asks if Arga will get her some delicious food. Arga lifts Ku and heads towards Reno's place. While carrying Ku upstairs, he wonders if Reno has returned home yet. Ku, in Arga's arms, complains about having to eat nuts again today. Arga apologizes to her for the repeated nut meals, although he also notes that Ku ate everything despite her complaints. Arga tucks Ku into bed, ensuring she's comfortable, and informs her that he's going to see Reno. He contemplates how he's supposed to repair the floor in one of Reno's rooms, a task he's never undertaken before. Upon arriving at Reno's bedroom, Arga knocks on her door and lets her know he has arrived. Reno opens the door and invites him in, advising him not to look around since her room is a bit messy at the moment. Arga assures her that the room appears clean to him, and Reno guides him to a specific spot, pointing at the floor that needs repair. She asks if he requires any tools to fix it. And as Arga inspects the floor, Reno suddenly offers to get him something to drink. Arga insists that Reno doesn't need to fetch anything for him. He examines the floor and notices that it creaks a little but doesn't seem to have any significant issues. This leaves him wondering why Reno asked him to fix it in the first place. Suddenly, Reno returns to the room with a teapot and cups, apologizing for the delay. Arga expresses his apologies for not understanding what he's supposed to be fixing in the floor. He suggests that he might need to bring someone else to inspect and repair it properly. Blushing, Reno reassures Arga that it's fine and that he agreed to help her with her bedroom floor, so he doesn't need to worry about the specifics. Arga acknowledges her understanding and, attempting to leave Reno's bedroom, tells her he'll return another time. Reno, however, grabs Arga from behind and urges him to stay, offering him a cup of tea she specially prepared for him. She tells him to sip it slowly as it's quite hot. Reno mentions that she'd like to have a private chat with Arga while enjoying their tea. Arga accepts the cup of tea, and despite its scalding temperature, he drinks it all in one go. Setting the cup down, he thanks Reno for the delicious tea but insists that he must return to his room. Reno seems disappointed by Arga finishing his tea so quickly and missing the chance to chat with him alone. Arga asks Reno if she truly wanted him to drink the tea slower, to which Reno exclaims that yes, she indeed wanted him to savor it. They exchange words, with Reno raising her voice in frustration. The next day, a woman enters the Adventurers Guild, capturing everyone's attention as she opens the door. The woman approaches the reception desk and inquires of Miru whether an adventurer from Nitsu Star can join the Adventurers Guild in Korn Town. Miru appears perplexed by the question, and the woman repeats her query, seeking clarification. Miru begins by offering an apology, but is cut off as the woman abruptly turns away, stating that she has no business in this guild and apologizing for any inconvenience she may have caused Miru. As the woman attempts to exit the Adventurers Guild, Darsh calls out to her, referring to her as an idiot and asserting that if she is an outsider, her first task is to prove her capabilities to him. He boasts of being the strongest and insists that she must demonstrate her competence to him. The woman turns to face Darsh and expresses her ignorance of this requirement. The woman, now uninterested in being in a place she considers filled with weak individuals, tells Darsh that he should consider himself fortunate that he won't have to see her again. She implies that the Adventurers Guild is beneath her standards. Darsh, incensed by her remarks, angrily questions her identity and challenges her audacity to speak to him in such a manner. He dismisses her as someone not on par with Arga's strength. Upon hearing Arga's name, the woman reacts with astonishment. Recognizing that there is a connection between this woman and Arga, Darsh inquires if she knows Arga. She confirms that she does and speaks of Arga as a renowned hero whose name carries great significance. Darsh, baffled by her statements, dismisses them as nonsense. Then, a voice calls out to the woman, urging her to wait. She turns to find Arga standing before her, which leaves her in a state of shock and disbelief. Arga invites the woman to speak with him privately and leads her away, leaving Darsh behind, still bewildered and shouting about their connection. Miru attempts to calm Darsh down. Still in disbelief, the woman seeks confirmation from Arga. Arga acknowledges her recognition and affirms his true identity. She questions Arga about why he's living in such an inconspicuous place, suggesting that while the townsfolk may acknowledge his strength, they might not be aware of his past as a hero's companion. She inquires further, wondering why Arga isn't with the other heroes. Arga responds by explaining that this life of anonymity is his reward. Perplexed, the woman presses him to clarify what reward he means. Arga realizes that she likely doesn't understand the kind of person Gyllen, the hero he once served, truly is. Arga is intrigued by Eller's familiarity with his name and asks her how she knows him. Eller, revealing her face by removing her hood, introduces herself as Horn's younger sister. Her name strikes a chord with Arga, and he recalls it. Eller then states that she requires Arga's assistance. Eller explains that she needs Arga to join her in hunting down a high-ranking demon. Arga hesitates and ultimately declines Eiler's request, citing the danger posed by demons. Eller insists that Arga cannot refuse her request, but Arga points out that demons are far more powerful than ordinary monsters. Eller acknowledges the danger but suggests that she could gather a group of adventurers to confront the demon. Arga remains hesitant, contemplating Eiler's request and the potential risks involved. Eiler stresses Arga's strength and her belief in his abilities, mentioning that her brother, Horn, also acknowledged his prowess. She's specifically seeking Arga's assistance because of his reputation. Arga, understanding the gravity of the situation, emphasizes the need for teamwork. He agrees to help Eller, but underscores that they must work together effectively, as he can't take on a high-ranking demon alone. Curious about Eiler's motivations, Arga inquires about why she wants to hunt demons. Eller explains that she's on a mission to reclaim her hometown. She recounts the demon's sudden appearance near Izo when Horn and other adventurers set up traps to intercept it. While they managed to fend off the demon, it cost the lives of many adventurers, though Horn survived. Eller recounts the events that led up to her quest. After Horn left Izo with the goal of killing the Demon King and ensuring peace for Iza and Kazu, he joined a group of adventurers. Within a year, they managed to defeat the Demon King. It seemed like the long-awaited peace had finally arrived. However, the Demon King inexplicably revived a few days later, launching an invasion of Kazu and Waldona. Eller, originally planning to search for her brother in Eldale, discovered the dire situation back home. With Kazu and Waldona now overrun by demons, she decided to seek Horn's help in defeating the Demon King once and for all, hoping to save her hometown and the entire region. Eller, determined to save her hometown and her brother, asks Arga to accompany her to Iza till they can rid it of the demons. Arga inquires about the distance to Iza, and Eller informs him that it's approximately a 10-day journey on foot. Arga, realizing the need for speed, suggests using his magic tool to get there faster. Eller expresses her gratitude for Arga's assistance. Arga then asks about Eiler's adventurer emblem, and she reveals that her emblem is a compound, emphasizing her skills in preparing medicine. Arga understands that he will be the primary combatant on this mission, and he resolves to do his best to help Eller achieve her goal. Arga decides that they should rest for the day and leave for Iza the next morning. The following day, Reno informs Arga that breakfast is ready and will be served in the dining room. Arga refrains from disclosing his intentions to Reno about dealing with demons, as he doesn't want to worry her. Q, hearing about breakfast, eagerly gets up and asks Arga for permission to go and eat. Arga agrees but asks Q to fetch Eller from her room first. Arga approaches Eiler's bedroom and knocks on the door. Eller responds that the door is open, so Arga enters. However, upon seeing that Eller is not fully dressed, Arga feels embarrassed and quickly exits the room, shutting the door behind him. Arga calls out to Eller from behind the door, urging her to prepare herself and her equipment. Eller promptly opens the door and inquires about what's bothering Arga. Arga questions Eller she has no sense of modesty, leaving Eller somewhat confused. During breakfast, Eller admires the delicious-looking food and asks Arga if he and Kijjo have such breakfast every morning. Arga clarifies that it's not the case, explaining that they were only eating nuts and seeds until a few days ago. While having her breakfast, Eller permits Arga to ask her a question. Arga seizes the opportunity and expresses his desire to learn more about the demon threatening Iza, interrupting Eller as she starts discussing her emblem. Eller informs Arga that the demon's name is Luga. She goes on to describe how Luga resembles an orc, but possesses the ability to speak human language and even transform into a human. Arga ponders whether it's possible for an orc to mutate into a demon. Eller recounts how initially, no one in Aza noticed that a demon was among them, but suddenly an army of orcs, all under Luga's command, surrounded the town. Arga questions why Luga targeted the town of Eza specifically. He then inquires about the current situation in Iza, wondering if there are any inhabitants left. Eller confirms that the town is currently devoid of people, and even the town's soldiers are too afraid to approach it. Arga reflects on how this situation works in his favor, allowing him to unleash his full power against the demon without endangering anyone. After breakfast, Eller urges Arga to set off for the town of Iza. As they step outside, Eller notices a bag in Arga's hand and asks him about its contents. Arga opens the bag and reveals a handful of metamorphic sand, explaining that it's a magical substance capable of instantly transporting them anywhere they wish to go. Arga suggests that Eller think of a location nearby but outside Iza, as he wants to avoid encountering demons right upon arrival. Arga instructs Kijjo to manage things while he's away. Kijjo agrees to tell anyone who asks that Arga is out collecting nuts. With that settled, Arga invites Eller to take his hand and sprinkles the metamorphic sand on both of them. Eller is amazed by the teleportation process and follows Arga's advice to remain still as they are in the midst of being transported. Eller, feeling offended, instructs Arga not to make such comments as she is not a child. Finally, Arga and Eller complete their teleportation and materialize at their destination. However, Eller immediately falls to the ground and starts vomiting, feeling queasy from the teleportation experience. Arga and Eller both regain their footing, and Arga, surveying the damaged surroundings of the town, asks Eller if they are indeed in Iza. He points out that he had advised her to think of a location near Iza, not inside it. Suddenly, a voice greets Arga, and he turns to see a girl who remarks on how she didn't expect to encounter Arga so quickly. Arga inquires if the girl is Luga, the demon, and declares his readiness to fight her. Luga expresses her disappointment, believing that Arga was the one destined to defeat her. She reveals that she knows Horn and intends to use Arga and Eller as bait to draw Horn to her. As Luga utters her intentions, a horde of orcs materializes before Arga and Eller, poised to attack them. Overwhelmed by fear, Eller takes cover behind Arga, seeking protection. In stark contrast, Arga stands undaunted, signaling the orcs to charge at him. The orcs rush toward Arga and Eller, their intent clear, to eliminate them. However, as the orcs approach Arga's proximity, he dispatches them effortlessly with a single swing of his sword, defeating every orc that dared to attack. Eller is left in a state of terror, not only from witnessing the carnage, but also from the gruesome aftermath of the orc slaughter. Overwhelmed by fear, she screams loudly as Arga continues to eliminate the orcs one by one. Once Arga has dealt with the orcs, Eller, still deeply disturbed, begins to feel sick again, and she vomits once more. Arga, somewhat exasperated, urges Eller to stop throwing up. Luga, appearing somewhat impressed by Arga's formidable combat skills, offers him a compliment, acknowledging that there's no doubt he is Horn's partner. Arga proceeds to retrieve a scroll from his possessions and informs Luga that he has no choice but to employ the stamp. Eller strongly objects to Arga's idea, claiming that it would indeed hinder his ability to fight. Arga playfully responds, jesting that Eller's presence might make things difficult because she's exceptionally heavy. Annoyed, Eller retorts that she's not overweight. As they continue their discussion, more orcs surge toward them. Luga chides them for diverting their attention from the ongoing battle. While Arga attempts to maintain his grip on Eller, she shouts at him not to touch her behind. Arga instructs Eller to stay quiet and then proceeds to swing his sword skillfully, dispatching all the approaching orcs with deadly precision. Luga, once again, expresses her admiration for Arga's remarkable combat prowess. Arga, undaunted by Luga's threats, reminds her that she's already died once and sarcastically congratulates her on her impending second death. He confidently declares his intention to kill her. Luga, however, retorts that she plans to dismember Arga limb by limb before ultimately killing him. She vows to personally oversee his gruesome demise. As more orcs approach and Luga issues threats, Arga expertly repels the attacking orcs, swiftly dispatching them. Arga remains confident, stating that defeating him is beyond Luga's capabilities. However, he can't help but feel uneasy due to the overwhelming number of incoming orcs. He senses that something is amiss but struggles to identify the issue while simultaneously defending against the relentless orc onslaught. Amid the chaos, Arga questions Eller about whether she has vomited again as he senses warmth around his waist. Eller, still clinging to Arga, assures him that she hasn't vomited this time. She tries to explain that it's something else. Arga presses her to clarify, emphasizing that he won't understand if she doesn't explain clearly. Eller then exclaims loudly, confessing that she has urinated, causing the warmth around Arga's waist. Arga reassures Eller that he didn't mean to embarrass her by asking the question. However, Eller angrily shouts at him, questioning if he's satisfied now that she had to admit she urinated due to fear. She explains how her fear overwhelmed her and she lost control, apologizing for her actions. Arga calmly responds, noting that he'll need to clean his equipment once they return to Korn Town. As they continue to face the orcs, Arga notices something peculiar. One of the orcs has its head severed, yet it continues to stand and move. Upon closer inspection, Arga realizes that all the orcs have wounds and injuries but still remain active. It dawns on him that Luga is an immortal demon, which explains the orc's resilience. Arga initially believed Luga to be an immortal ogre with demonic mutations, but Luga corrects him, revealing that she has immortalized and controls the orc horde. Luga admits that she was once an orc, but with a crucial difference. When she was killed for the first time, she was resurrected with immensely enhanced power. Luga smirks, stating that now that Arga is aware of her ability to resurrect the orc horde every time he kills them, there's little he can do to stop her. Arga remains resolute, proclaiming his intent to kill Luga and end the threat. He asserts that he only needs to shatter her demonic core to accomplish this. Luga responds with skepticism, suggesting that Arga's claim of being the one who killed the Demon King is nothing more than a joke. Arga introduces himself as the Sacred Silver Knight, emphasizing his resolve. He tells Luga that he will kill her and make her experience so much pain that she'll regret ever returning in the first place. Luga's transformation into her true form is met with a sinister eagerness to witness Arga's anguish. She lunges forward in an attempt to grab him, her intentions clear. Arga, quick to react, swiftly evades Luga's grasp, stating that he must locate her demonic core. As Luga persistently tries to attack Arga, he decides to employ a diversion. Arga takes out a knife and hurls it toward Luga. She manages to dodge the knife but fails to realize that it was a distraction. Arga seizes this opportunity and leaps into the air, wielding his sword with precision. In one fluid motion, he severs Luga's head and arm. Arga stands firm, asserting that he never had any intention of running away. He proceeds to dismember Luga's head and arm from her body, expecting that, like most demons, she won't die even after such injuries. Much to his amazement, Luga remains alive. Luga's severed head, seemingly undeterred, chuckles and tells Arga that he's mistaken if he believes he can defeat her. Suddenly, the horde of orcs gathers and reattaches Luga's severed limbs to her body. Reformed, she declares her return. Luga explains to Arga that she lacks a demonic core, allowing her to regenerate as long as a part of her remains in darkness. This realization dawns on Arga, contrasting with the Demon King who had a demonic core but still revived in a similar manner with only his severed head intact. Arga confidently tells Luga that he believes he has a method to defeat her. Luga, perplexed, challenges Arga's statement, asserting that it's impossible for him to kill her. In response, Arga swiftly wields two axes, attempting to strike Luga, who narrowly avoids the attack. Eller, watching the battle from a safe distance, intervenes by holding up a bottle of potion and urging Arga to take it. Arga, intrigued, inquires about the contents of the bottle and whether it can enhance his abilities. Eller explains that it's a potion designed to allow Arga to perceive the flow of magic. Arga is impressed by Eller's ability to create the potion, but she clarifies that she prepared it before arriving on the battlefield. Since Arga can't detect any trace of magic within Luga, consuming the potion is crucial to their strategy. Eller informs Arga that the potion's effects will last for about an hour. Arga, however, expresses his confidence that he won't need that long to defeat Luga. He drinks the potion, granting him the ability to perceive the flow of magic. Upon focusing his gaze on Luga and her followers, Arga realizes that neither Luga nor any of the orcs accompanying her possess a magic demonic core. Suddenly, Arga detects an orc concealed behind a wall, and it becomes apparent that this orc is the source of all the magical power. As Luga launches another attack, Arga swiftly pursues the hidden orc, decapitating it and destroying its magic demonic core in the process. With the destruction of this orc's core, all the other orcs under Luga's control collapse to the ground and perish. Luga begins to disintegrate and then finally explodes into fragments. Arga triumphantly states that he had warned Luga that she would be defeated. Eller gazes at Arga, her eyes filled with gratitude and amazement at his solo defeat of the demon. She admits that she had underestimated his strength. Eller expresses her deep gratitude to Arga for saving her town, Isa, and its people. Arga, however, insists that it was a joint effort. He acknowledges that without Eller's potion, he wouldn't have been able to locate Luga's demonic core and achieve victory. He emphasizes that Eller played a significant role in defeating Luga, even though she had been not only frightened but had also cried during the battle. Arga suddenly pauses and takes a closer look at Eller's face. Perplexed, Eller asks if something is wrong. Arga, somewhat entranced, tells her that he had never noticed before how beautiful her face is. Eller's initial reaction is to shout at Arga, thinking he's making jokes. But Arga reassures her that he's completely serious. He suggests they return to Korn town as his equipment needs cleaning due to being stained with Eller's urine. Then, Arga brings up a favor he needs to ask of Eller. He emphasizes the importance of keeping his identity a secret, urging her not to disclose what transpired today to anyone. Intrigued by Arga's identity, Eller asks if he was truly the one who founded the group that assisted the hero in defeating the Demon King. She can hardly believe it, questioning if Arga is even human. Arga leaves it to Eller to decide whether he's human or not. In response, Eller, with a bright red face and intense expression, tells Arga that if he truly is human, she has something to give him. Arga, oblivious to Eller's subtle advances, presses her about what she wanted to give him. However, Eller, feeling turned off by the situation, quickly dismisses it as nothing and suggests they return to Korn town. Eller explains that she needs to get to the capital as soon as possible to seek government assistance in rebuilding Isa town. The news of Luga's defeat spreads, and the people celebrate the victory of the hero who saved Isa from the demon. Word even reaches the Adventurers Guild, where someone approaches Arga and asks if his armor is an imitation of the hero's. Arga, somewhat annoyed, anticipates having to answer questions about his armor resembling the hero's in the future. Arga reflects on how Eller didn't reveal his true identity, relieving his initial concerns. He contemplates how the hero, whose identity remains a secret, is receiving credit for their deeds. Upon returning to his inn and entering his room, he finds Cow there and she asks if he's okay. They both sit on the edge of the bed, and Arga realizes that if he wants to continue living in this town in peace, he'll need to make an important decision. As Arga and Keo sit in their room talking, Reno approaches them and mentions the rumors about Kuza, where a hero defeated a demon. Arga acknowledges hearing these rumors and urges Reno to continue with what she wants to say. Reno points out the striking resemblance between the hero and Arga, mentioning the sacred silver armor and treasured sword. Arga acknowledges the similarity and expresses his desire to talk to Reno about his past. After sharing some details about his history, Reno asks if he's suggesting that he was the one who aided the hero in defeating the Demon King. Arga decides to reveal his true identity to Reno by showing her his emblem, explaining that it's an upside-down hero crest. Reno admits that she had suspicions about Arga not being an ordinary human from the beginning. Arga then confirms that he is indeed the one who defeated the demon in Kuzu. He removes his helmet, revealing his clean-shaven face and messy hair, expressing his desire to no longer hide his identity. Reno is shocked and excited to see Arga's face for the first time, letting out a loud scream. Later, as Arga enters the Adventurers Guild, he's greeted by Darsh, who scolds him for not acknowledging him sooner. Arga finds Darsh not recognizing him without his helmet, and Darsh mistakes him for a new guy who hasn't greeted him yet. Arga comments on how Darsh is just the same as always. Darsh, upon hearing Arga's voice, gets closer to inspect him further, trying to recall where he's heard the voice before. Arga, feeling uncomfortable with Darsh's closeness, pushes his face back. Darsh, annoyed, questions why Arga did that. The other adventurers in the guild become excited and confused upon seeing Arga without his helmet, remarking that they had no idea what his face looked like under it. They ask Arga what prompted him to take off his helmet. One adventurer, who previously couldn't approach Arga, now feels more comfortable and offers to hang out with him sometime, referring to him as a brother. Another adventurer asks Arga if he plans to collect nuts again today, inviting him to join a monster hunting party. Darsh intervenes, stating that Arga, being a human, wouldn't be of much use on a monster hunt. Arga once again pushes Darsh's face away, explaining it's because his hand is a bit slippery, apologizing for the gesture. Later, the adventurer who invited Arga to join their monster hunting party sets a rendezvous time at the guild. While Arga is waving goodbye to the adventurer, Reno observes him, feeling happy that things seem to have worked out well for him. She's glad for Arga's sake. Suddenly, Eller arrives at the Adventurers Guild and inquires with Reno about Arga's whereabouts. Upon spotting Arga, she approaches him, unable to recognize him without his helmet, and asks if he's really Arga. Eller, still emotional, confronts Arga about not telling her that her brother is dead. Arga is taken aback by this unexpected accusation. He explains to Eller that when they first met, his primary goal was to defeat Luga, and he didn't want to burden her with the sad news. Eller, tears welling up in her eyes, angrily retorts that Arga could have told her about her brother's death after defeating Luga. Arga tries to hush her, reminding her that she was supposed to keep their battle against Luga a secret. Ignoring Arga's reminder, Eller continues her emotional outburst. She accuses Arga of sneering at her for not knowing much about her own brother and suggests that if Arga hadn't been trying to take credit for her brother's bravery, he might still be alive. The emotions are running high as Eller grapples with her grief and anger. Arga, feeling frustrated and emotional after the confrontation with Eller, raises his voice to make her stop talking and then orders her to leave the Adventurers Guild. Eller, with a heavy heart, complies and walks out, declaring that she never wants to see Arga again. Reno steps in to check on Arga's well-being, and he reassures her that he's okay. Kijjo also asks Arga if he's sad, to which he replies that he's not. Back at the inn, Arga lovingly tucks Kijjo into bed. Reno enters and notes that Kijjo fell asleep quickly. She then invites Arga to her room for some tea, and he accepts the offer. As they sit together, Arga compliments Reno on her cooking skills, particularly her tea. The two share a quiet moment in Reno's room. Reno tells Arga that there's something she wants to discuss with him. She confronts him about lying to her, which surprises Arga. Reno mentions that he told her he was going to collect nuts, but actually went to help fight demons. She expresses her concern about Arga not informing anyone about heading into a dangerous situation and what would happen if something bad occurred. Arga realizes that Reno believes he's been lying to her. He assures her that he won't lie to her again. Reno appreciates his honesty and expresses her gratitude. Arga then suggests that it might be time for Reno to stop addressing him as Arga-sama. Reno insists that she should continue addressing Arga as Arga-sama, since she's a guild employee, but Arga suggests that she use his first name when they're alone. Reno, blushing heavily, starts addressing him as Arga-san. When Arga asks why she's using san, Reno admits that it's challenging for her to suddenly switch to calling him by his first name. Back at the Adventurers Guild, Darsh rushes in and reports seeing a monster outside unlike any he's seen before. Reno becomes nervous, but Darsh tells her it's not the time to be anxious and asks her to gather all available weapons. Reno informs him that most adventurers are currently out hunting monsters. Darsh urges her to gather any weapons she can find. Reno retrieves some primitive weapons and informs Darsh that it's all they have at the moment since the town's armory is closed. She decides to go get Arga's help. Back in town, Darsh leads Reno to the spot where he spotted the monster. Reno observes the creature, which appears to be a mutated human with sharp claws, lurking in the streets. Darsh expresses the need for other adventurers to distract the monster, and Reno agrees. She decides to immediately inform Arga about the situation, leaving the boxes where she and Darsh were hiding and sprinting off. The monster notices Reno and lunges toward her to attack, but she is saved by Arga just in time. Reno is stunned as Arga grabs her and shields her from the monster's attack. Arga quickly checks if Reno is okay, and she asks him what he's doing here. Arga explains that he sensed the presence of a monster and came to investigate. He looks at the monster and declares that this town means a lot to him, and if the monster is here to destroy it, then he has no choice but to take the monster's life.